this up too, that this speaks to your own work, your own dissertation, and talking about, your autoethnographic study. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I am so excited of where it has landed. Let me just tell you, so it started really, this idea that I was going to incorporate my stories, personal experiences, navigating academia. So really specifically my doctoral journey is kind of where I landed now, like just really looking at from start to where I am now, what were some instances I ran into. And then all these other kind of threads and pieces started coming in. Now looking at kind of generationally, like how does that show across generations about these stereotypes of Black women? So yeah, my main focus is on the internalization of stereotypes. So these kind of strong Black woman tropes, angry Black woman, and how does that show up in education? So that kind of has stayed kind of the center. And then these other pieces that I've been able to bring in through meeting you, Dr. Cockley, like just people who introduced me to and darkened feminism, for instance, where it was, oh, spiritual, I can actually bring that in. Like there was a part of me trying to keep it out. There's a big part of my identity. But I feel like it was your definition and your dissertation that really got me going on this now wellness. And like really for Black people, we cannot separate really all these three things: the social justice, wellness, and spiritual, like they're all housed together. Even education, I feel like would fit in there. And so while I'm looking at spirituality as a separate identity, now I'm seeing it more clearly. No, this comes out when I, am upset about social injustices. And it's been a part of the Black church, right? Like there's so much overlap to how you define yourself as a Black woman that ties to spirituality. So that was a piece that had to come in, because it was like, okay, yeah, how can I talk about any of these things, education, social justice, and being a Black woman without bringing in like that this is the forefront. And so that has been an exciting addition, because it felt more grounding of like, okay, more true to myself, and then being able to bring in stories from my grandma, just my rootedness in spirituality that informs how I'm experiencing education and these other things I'm looking at.
I was excited to see you embrace that. Yeah.
That was a huge win, because it's like, it's so crazy, because it's like, this is only maybe a few months ago, but like trying to imagine where my study would be or how distressed I would be trying to just look at this part and not bring that in. Because now I can't not see it. I can't not see spirituality with social justice and like meld it together. And then Black women being at the forefront of justice and spirituality. Like it's just, I can't not see them together. And so I'm like, wow, what was I gonna do before? And so then the wellness piece came with that. And I think, being introduced to your coaching program, and that whole aspect of wellness being kind of this total person and wholeness of self. And so within the context of academic wellness, it fit with my study, because I was trying to look at, what are the impact of these internalized stereotypes, and, wellness was an area I was kind of looking at. But now to bring in like spirituality, like incongruence in any of these places, right? And how would that impact wellness? So it fits so great, like even with my study itself, it feels like an act of wellness, because it's kind of bringing these parts together.
Absolutely.
That initially I was trying to separate. So it's kind of like, wow, like I'm becoming more congruent, and the study is transforming as I do it. And so, I feel like there's going to be a lot of implications from that, like what spaces exist that try to separate the either, okay, like this at church, or be like this education, don't talk about spirituality here, right? And just that's the defragmentation, that's the kind of incongruence that creates that unrest. So I feel like I'm on the verge of still finding out, like, wow, like in my study itself is like resembling or displaying wellness, like for academia, like here's how you can be well and do this good work.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started with the we did the 16-week journey. So when we started on our 16-week journey, so I initially wanted to look at what you're writing, what you're trying to do, right? So then when you sent over your writing and our first meeting, I was like, okay, so We need to talk about some of these things
Yeah.
because this does not feel authentic and it doesn't feel connected, right? So then going back to that spirituality and all of those different components to, yeah, so who are you basically? And then how do you see yourself in this work? And we started with that
Yeah.
yeah, with that conversation there. And then really developing around what your central topic was, and then looking at those other pieces that needed to be included.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's a perfect way to put it
Yeah.
because it helped focus. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think in some way I had it all, but it was like all scattered. And then the way I was trying to present it wasn't authentic. And I think that kind of helped me see I was trying to do autoethnography, but not bring myself in. And I think that's kind of part of what you have pointed out of like, yeah, how are you kind of separating these things out? And it kind of felt probably like you're just throwing stuff on the page. So all these topics sound great, but how do they really relate? And what is the
Yeah.
tying piece? And I think that was the tying piece for me that I was really trying to keep out and just look at these subheadings separately. And so that was just adding more components than I really needed to look at because you're like creating a lot of work for yourself,
I did
right?
that.
Without really having the centerpiece of like, okay, these all, spiral off of these. It's not
Uh-huh.
just looking at this and looking at that and looking at that.
Mhm.
And so I think even for when I think about writing the narratives, I'm not going to be so focused on, okay, what is this and what story shares this? It's all together. And I won't have to sift it out. And that's going to be the part of discussing it of like what things did come through or what elements of the story came through on these
Yeah.
aspects, but all of them are a part of me and I can't really shake them off. And when I do, that's kind of maybe what leads to the turmoil when I'm trying to exist as one way in a space.
Yeah.